Hi, yeah, my name's Anna and I'm a member of Fair Luxury. And there's a few of us Fair Luxury team here as well today. And we've invited you all along for this special open house session because we want to talk about the Fair Luxury Pledge and then about generally moving forward with your sustainability visions and goals in mind. So I am hoping that everybody here may have partaken in the Fair Luxury Pledge at some point. So we wanted to just share a bit of an update on that. So first of all, just in case you've been asleep under a rock and you haven't heard about the Fair Luxury Pledge, it's a framework that we developed as Fair Luxury we launched it in the late, so maybe 2018, I think, at the one of our conferences, but then COVID happened and blah blah blah, and so we took a really big relaunch back into it in 2020. And that's when we started doing all the open house sessions as well, and we really wanted to flesh it out and really make it a big deal. We thought, well, they're all of us out here, all of us in our little rooms, all locked inside, and but we all want to do this together. We all want to create a really forward-thinking vision of the future and what we can achieve ourselves. So we relaunched the Fair Luxury Pledge, and it's a way of pulling a framework together, so to make you feel basically that you're not alone in your journeys, that there's a community here, and you're setting yourself a goal and you're kind of stating it out loud, in the idea that then becomes a much more sort of tangible thing to aim for. It's like something you see in front of you, and like, I'm doing this. So it's like you're making this pledge to yourself, but also to the wider community, should you choose to. And so it's been a really great journey. We've had over 150 pledges taken, I think, and some really amazing open house sessions based around it. And then we got nominated for a Retail Jeweller Award, which is fantastic. And we really felt the benefits from it, and we've really felt that lots of people have really taken those next steps due to it. However, as things change and move and morph and grow, then as Fair Luxury, as a group, a voluntary group of jewellery professionals, we've just realised that we're probably not going to have enough more resources to maintain it as we would like. And because we think it's such an amazing thing that we've created, or we've all created together, we didn't want it to just fade into oblivion at all. So what we're doing is we're kind of like releasing it out into everybody, so it's all still very much there, it's still very much happening. It's just that we won't be monitoring anymore anything that comes through our website. So you can absolutely still take your pledges, you can absolutely still set these firm goals to help you achieve the targets that you're setting for yourself. Still very much share everything is within Fair Luxury as the wider community, but we just wanted to let everybody know that is where we are up to with it, and just to share all the stories that we're so proud of, but also just to say this isn't like, we're not ending anything, it's just sort of transforming into a freer entity, if you like. But there is all sorts of amazing resources available on our Fair Luxury website. So that are still going to stay there. All the assets, all the resources are still going to stay there. And we have Rebecca Maddock of Fair Luxury and the Warren Studios here, and she can just guide us through quickly what is available there for you, should you choose to go and continue your journey that way.
Yeah, there's a whole load of stuff on there. I think sometimes the idea of the pledge feels a little bit overwhelming. I'm just thinking, like, how can I achieve this, and where do I find the support? So there's a lot of checklists on there, guidance for creating your pledge, how to figure out what will be most useful. There's a lot of downloadables, so you can download all of the visual assets that say our little tagline, I'm working on it, and you can kind of display that on your website or social media. There's downloadables for trackers, so you can kind of print this out or use this as a guide as you're tracking your progress. So over whether it's a month or a year even. And there's also an example of that as well. So if you kind of think, well, I don't really know how I can measure my progress, there's kind of an example laid out as well. And then there's loads of resources right at the bottom as well. Over the years, there's been so many resources accumulated. So there's loads of links, loads of blogs. So hopefully you'll find what you're looking for there. And if you don't find it there, hopefully you'll be signposted to where you can find it.
Fantastic. Thanks, Rebecca. Yeah, I mean, it really is a wealth of information and ideas, I think. I think that that's so much what the pledge has been about. It has been about that motivation from the ground up. And so we all know that we're all just crazy busy all the time. And so having this framework there to put in front of you, I think that that's just really beneficial in taking steps towards the kind of working environment that we all wish for, which is, you know, why we're all here, because we all have the shared vision. So we're just working on it, these steps towards it. Each individually, we can make a really big difference, and be a part of a bigger change, which is hugely inspiring. Speaking of hugely inspiring, I'd like to introduce Anna McLaughlin of Anna Fine Jewellery, who took a pledge with us a couple of years ago. And I found the pledge really fascinating. So Anna was, I'll just give you a brief synopsis, because she's got so much to say. It'd be fantastic. About thinking of the bigger picture in terms of how you run your jewelry business, in terms of solar power, you know, going off grid, making everything very much more of a self-sustaining business. And she's achieved that in her studio, where she creates her beautiful sculptural bespoke work. So I'd like to introduce her. Thank you so much for coming and speaking, Anna. It'd be great to hear a little bit more about it, and also what inspires you to. Can you hear me?
Oh, I lost you a bit then.
Oh,
can everybody hear me?
Sorry.
Can everybody hear me? Yeah. Okay. Good. Right. That's good. It all went a bit. It all went a bit roboty at my end then. Right. Yeah. Hello. I'll try and do a share screen thing again. That worked in a few minutes ago. But let's have a look and see if I can do it. Okay. Am I sharing my screen? Have you all got a picture of a? I can't see you now, so I don't. So can somebody tell me if you've got a picture of a shed on your screen?
No, I don't. No.
Not yet.
Oh, right. Okay. Hang on. Let me try again. Share screen. Oh, hang on. Start. Okay. Right. I think it's doing it now. Bear with me a second. Have you got it now?
I think it's coming. Yes.
Yes. Brilliant. Okay. Right. So I can't see me, which is a bit scary, but never mind. Oh, I think you've lost. Oh, I've turned it off again, haven't I? Right. Okay. Bear with me. Right. Is it back?
Yes.
Yes. Fab. Right. Okay. I won't touch anything apart from the forward arrow to make it go. Okay. Right. So so yeah. I was I've done a few pledges, but the last one. I was kind of really inspired by the whole idea of making the pledge. And before this one, before the pledge started, that was the first point in time that I heard about B Corps. And I must have seen the logo on things, but I saw that it was that some people in Fair Luxury decided they were going to go try and become a B Corp. So that was really what kind of made me look it up. And then I decided, you know, that I'd try and have a go at that. I didn't even realise it was something that was open to me as a sole trader at the time. That somebody like me could even apply for something that massive. So that was really the inspiration for that. And I went through that and just started off filling in all the kind of initial forms and just sort of spent months and months and months and eventually got there. But this is supposed to be about my studio as well. So becoming a B Corp was obviously part of that. So I can answer questions about that as well afterwards if you want to. So I'll try not to rabbit on too long. But basically what we've got here, this is a picture of my workshop. Phone's making noises at me. And this whole pledge kind of came about, well, it did actually come about because of a change of circumstance. So although it was something that I really wanted to do, and my impact on the environment has been something that just is in my mind all of the time. So it's just something that never leaves. So it's always something that I consider everything that I do. But I was actually thrown out of my old studio. So I had a studio at a craft centre. And then a month before Christmas, they gave me notice and told me they wanted the space back, gave me my month's notice. So I had to leave. So I had a month before Christmas, busiest time for all of us, and then had to pack everything up and move, and then had nowhere to go. So moved everything into my partner's office at home, stole that from him, kicked him out. He had a little corner and I'd got everything in there. And he works on the phone for a living. So that was great fun when I was there hammering and making a noise and he was trying to talk to people on the phone. But what we did have when we moved to the house that we live in, the big shed that you can see on your screen was in the garden. But I'll just share the next picture because that's what we got. We hadn't got a garage. The house is a massive renovation project. It still is 5 years on, and this was our garage space. So we did have this space. So we kind of set about trying to transform this space into my studio. And as part of my pledge, I mean, we spend an awful lot of time talking as jewelers, goldsmiths, makers. We spend a lot of time worrying and talking about the actual products that we make, and trying to make those more environmentally friendly and look at sustainability on that side, which is fantastic, and we do need to keep doing that stuff. But actually, that's only a little tiny bit of what we do, and I wanted to kind of try and tackle the bigger picture and tackle the big stuff. And I've read on other blogs, podcasts, that there's kind of three main areas that I'm going to hang on. There's three main areas when it comes to environmentalism and carbon footprint and trying to be more sustainable, and that's food, energy, and transport. So I decided I was going to tackle those. Rather than just what I'm making, because that then hopefully makes more of a difference to everything, because you can have all the recycled metal and fair trade metals in the world, but then if you're working in somewhere that's using a whole load of oil and fossil fuels and really not energy efficient, then it's kind of cancelling that out. Yeah, I'll go through all of them really quickly, but obviously the main one with this is energy. Sorry to any farmers, hope there aren't any, but there's the dairy and meat industry are massively polluting. But that was easy because I'd been vegetarian since I was 13. And then I've been vegan for, I don't know how many years, quite a lot of years now. But I hadn't necessarily thought about how that would relate to my workshop. So even if you're not vegetarian, things like not choosing, things like choosing nylon mallets over rawhide ones, vegetable-based polishes, even down to the milk that we put in our 7,000 cups of tea that we get through every day. So that kind of stuff was all thought about as well. I'll move this on. Transport-wise, I was already cycling to my old studio most of the time. So I've now been able to cut that a little bit. So all these little steps count. So now I've just got a few steps up the garden. So I've been able to cancel that, to reduce that a bit as well. And obviously, I know working from home isn't for everyone, but things that you could do would be to consider how you get to work, how you get to your workshop. So, if you could cycle or you could use public transport, maybe even if it's just kind of once a week rather than driving. Then all of that's going to make a really big difference to your overall carbon footprint. But obviously the main thing that this is about with turning my studio off grid was all about energy. So as I say, this building was here, but it didn't have any insulation in it. And we also found he had no power. And then when we started working on it, we found out the floor wasn't supported properly either. So that was quite a problem that we had to sort out. And considering that the people before us have been using this as a woodworking workshop was quite amazing, really, that we took a bit of floor up and realised the floor was all bouncing and wasn't actually fixed at the ends. So I'll try not to bore you for too long with the pictures that I've got on here, but essentially what I've done is created a completely off-grid studio. So I'm running from batteries and solar. My water's off-grid. I've got a compost toilet. But the main thing that was key, because nobody wants to work in a freezing cold studio in the winter or a boiling hot one in the summer, was insulation. So I looked at lots of different sorts of insulation that we could put into here, because this building, we cleared the building out, but it was just a shell. It was just a single skin building. So I looked into all the different types of insulation. Lots of people all told us to go for sheep's wool, but as a vegan, I wasn't very happy about using that. But I did find this stuff that's made from recycled plastic bottles. So we've basically wrapped the building in it, or the inside of the building in it. So we built a loft, and it's filled that up. So that's mostly the recycled bottle insulation, and some insulation that was left in there from the previous people. So we thought, well, we may as well stick that in there. So that's in there as well. And it's all behind. So the walls you can see there are before we put the insulation in. And it's all behind the walls, and even in the floor we've got foil insulation in the floor as well. So what we were trying to do was, create a warm box to start with. So there's the insulation going in the walls. That's what it is, made in the UK as well, which is also really important that it's not being shipped all over the place. I'll go through this quickly, but so that's a picture once the walls started to go up. And you have to put animals and everything because it gets hit. So there you go. That's my dog Maddie, and she was the boss. She was overseeing everything. But the insulation went in, and then OSB walls went up, and then there's my partner Nate in the loft with his feet sticking out, just filling that space with insulation, and probably moaning at me because I wanted this kind of cathedral ceiling going on. Where we could have just put the loft lower down, but who wants to make life easy for themselves? So then essentially we kind of boxed it all in, and then on the right picture there, that's the floor. So there's we couldn't really put the spongy recycled bottle stuff under the floor, but we've got foil insulation under the floor, which is supposed to be equivalent to the same as the recycled bottle stuff. And on the floor, I've put that picture in because essentially I just tried to use as many recycled materials as I could, because everything costs money. So if you can get stuff for free or you can use it recycled, it's usually cheaper. That flooring actually came out of my living room. As I've already said, I'm living in a renovation project, and it's old-fashioned MDF laminate flooring, and lots of it was faded, and we were going to replace it anyway. But for a workshop, it's absolutely fine. So that came up out of the living room and went down on the floor. And we're not quite finished, but it's getting there. So the other thing I was going to mention, so all the walls are insulated, ceiling, floor, and then the other place where you really lose heat is out of the windows, which I still haven't finished. But what I do have is secondary glazing to put on all of those windows. So just the cheap magnetic secondary glazing stuff, because replacing windows is really expensive. So I need to get around to actually installing that before it gets cold again, but that's going to make a massive difference. And what you've got here, these pictures are of kind of almost finishing and my moving in day. This bit gets a bit more interesting. So there was no power to the building. The owners that had it before, as I said, were using it as a woodworking workshop, but they were running it off a single extension lead that was running all up the garden, plugged into the house, that we just had to disconnect because it was so dangerous. It wasn't even on like outdoor wire. So then I'd got a lovely building that was all insulated with no power, which actually I was quite happy about, because it meant that I could really kind of go with my dream, if you like, of creating this off-grid space. We did look at laying cables from the house, and it was going to be so expensive. So we decided, right, we've just got to go for it and work with it and make it off grid. So again, circumstances were a bit of help in deciding what to do. So before we could, what we've got here, I'll go through what I've got here. We've got so it's all running off 2 solar panels and an EcoFlow Delta Pro battery, which when I bought that, probably nearly 2 years ago now, they weren't very commonplace, but I think they sell them in Argos and all over the place now, so you can get these everywhere. And basically the panels charge up the battery, and that will run my whole studio for, you know, two or 3 days without having to charge it again. I'm looking back through my notes. So what we had to do, obviously you've got that battery's a 3.6 kilowatt, and I had to learn about all these numbers and all this maths, and it's 2 400-watt panels. And we had a plug already, that there's like a special plug that you can plug into the socket, and then you plug appliances into it, and it tells you how much power they're using. So I had to do a bit of an audit of everything in my studio and all the power that everything was using. So I basically just kind of, over a few days, I plugged it into each thing that I was using, like my Oxycon machine, and I've got a Dado welder, and, you know, any lights, anything that plugged in, and worked out how much power that might use in a day, and then added it all up, just to work out what size of battery and how many solar panels I might need, and then I doubled it, because you know, best maths in the world. I didn't want to get it wrong. I didn't want to be running out of power or blowing anything up. I do know that I can't run my laser welder and my Oxycon at the same time, but I'm never going to do that anyway, because I couldn't do those 2 things at the same time. So yeah, so after we did all the maths, that's basically what we ended up with. These batteries you can get, I mean, this was the biggest one, but you can get smaller ones. And the nice thing about this is 99% of days it now runs entirely off the solar and the battery. But on the darkest days in the winter, when we have a few days in a row when, you know, there's not quite enough solar to charge the battery up, I can still plug it into grid electricity. So I can run an extension lead up from the house and plug that in and charge it up overnight when the electricity is cheaper, and then it's ready to go again the next day. But as I say, I've done that, I don't know, a handful of times, just in the winter when it's, you know, we've had rainy, cold days for a few days and no sun. But apart from that, it is running everything off those solar panels. What have I got next? Oh, there we go, toilet. So the other thing I had to look at was water. There's no water to there, and I've always had a studio with a sink. It's something that I thought that obviously I just thought I can't do without. But it's amazing how little water you actually need when you start having to be careful with it. So what I've got at the moment is like a kind of camper van system. So I've got a clean tank and a waste tank. I do have to fill the clean tank up from the normal tap, but then I use the waste to water the plants. And like a pump tap that you would get in a camper van. But eventually, you know, phase 55 or something, I want to have rainwater harvesting on the roof, so that would come straight off the roof, and there's filters, and then it goes straight out again. So that's the long-term plan. But at the moment, I'm doing absolutely fine with having 2 tanks. And yeah, that's my compost toilet, so that doesn't use any water. So that's gone in fairly recently. Again, you don't need any plumbing, so it's great. We had to dig a little soak away in the garden, but it was only small. And then, I mean, it's a workshop toilet, so it's not being used masses anyway, but dead easy to put in. Right, what's next? I'm going to go back to this one. So yeah, let's go back to that one, because it's more somewhere in here. There was another picture, but I haven't put it in. Right, okay, so there should have been a picture of a wood burner. So heating, and there is a caveat on this, because obviously I live in the countryside, and if you lived in a city, then putting a wood burning stove in might not be the best option, because everybody's so close together, and because that is still releasing particulates into the air. but I'm in the country, there's lots of space in between the houses. I live in the Forest of Dean, so I've got a plentiful supply of wood. So because of where I live, then I made the decision that having the wood burning stove was okay. Heating and cooling when you're running an off-grid anything and running off batteries and solar is always the main problem. So because I'm in the situation where it was all right to have the wood burning stove in the winter, I've got my stove there and it's toasty warm. I can boil the kettle on it in the winter and cook soup on it, and it's just lovely. And because I've got so much insulation in there, this is the main thing. So however you heat anywhere, because I've got so much insulation in there, it means that I'm minimizing the amount of wood that I do have to burn. So, you know, and that would go for if you were using electric heating as well. So, and a couple of kind of new developments. This is my pickle pond, which is definitely an experiment. So there's always conversations happen about what you do with a pickle. And it's just me working in there. So, you know, my pickle might get changed once every 6 months. And then I'm sure like lots of people do, I'll put it in a jar, I leave it to evaporate, and you end up with like a little teaspoon of like gloopy mess at the bottom of what to do with. But that little teaspoon of stuff is full of copper. So I don't really want to wash that down the sink, because that then gets into the water course and it's very, very bad for aquatic life. So what I'm trying is this. So that's got some plants in that have only just, that, you know, you can see from there, it's a very new thing. You've got rush, a water lily and some mint, and all of those plants like copper. And the rush, apparently, I've been told, could even filter the copper. So this is my experiment. There's no fish in there. It's just water and the plants. And then that little teaspoon of stuff goes in there. And then obviously if the plants all die, then it's not working. But they're not dying yet. They are still alive. So, you know, and that will sit in there. And obviously when it rains and it's going to evaporate, and, you know, that's going to be vastly watered down by the fact that it's in a whole tank full of water. So we'll see. I'm hoping to end up with a nice barrel full of grasses in there, and then I can tip stuff in there. And then that essentially is my filtering system. And I know it's tiny, but, you know, if this works, then I'm kind of thinking maybe it can be scaled up. Maybe, you know, some kind of reed bed system could be used. So I don't know. It's definitely an experiment anyway. So I mean, that's about it. I've got if this works, there we go. Yes, it is working. I've got a video with a kind of walk round of what it's like now. As I say, I've still got to get my secondary glazing up. But this is my space, and yeah, it is running off grid, you know, for probably 99.9% of the time. So my very latest thing, which is nothing to do with the studio, but I'll just mention it here. So because it's a journey, it's just continual. It's not, you know, when you tackle all the big stuff, but it doesn't mean that you do something and then you stop. It's a continual process, and, you know, I'm not perfect by any means. And all of these things, like the pickle pond, it's a lot of it's an experiment, and it may work and it may not work. And if it doesn't, never mind, we'll try something else. But what I've said just the last kind of couple of months is that in my actual jewellery is, and I know there's a debate, the whole debate about fair trade and recycled, and I've always gone down the recycled route, but I've decided that I'm going to do all the recycling myself. So I'm to be honest, I'm there anyway, because all my work's commissions. So I'm going to try to not have to buy in any more recycled metals from Cookson's, apart from things like earring backs, because it's just not going to be cost effective to make those. But so people give me their old jewellery, and I'm working on how to make that cost effective for silver as well. So I'm just going to work with post-consumer, and that's the main thing. Post-consumer is the essential thing, because obviously the problems with buying, they say, recycled metals from Cookson's or wherever else, is that we don't know where it's coming from, and actually it's been recycled for ages. So they just put that badge on it. So I'm again, that's kind of my next step, is I'm trying to sort of go one better on that. But as I say, it's a journey. That's my last picture, with a cute dog and my B Corp sign. So yeah, I will unshare my screen so I can see people. And if anybody's got any questions, then please shout at me. Did that work?
Fantastic. Thank you so much. That was amazing. What a huge achievement and fascinating project as well. I'm sure there'll be lots of questions if you want to open it straight up. Is there some coming into the chat, or does anybody want to pop their hand up and ask a question?
Yeah, Jessica, you've got a question? You're on mute.
There we go. Oh, Anna, that was unbelievable. I was so impressed.
Thank you.
Brilliant. God, how long did it take you?
Well, we had to do it really quick. It's still not quite finished. But I had to move out of my studio in between Christmas and New Year. And then as soon as it was freezing cold, so we couldn't do anything until about the end of February, March time. And then I was I had open studios booked. So I had a bit of a deadline, which was the first week of July. So it took us from March until July for when I was able to work in here.
I really applaud you. And can I just ask you something about B Corp? Because I looked at that a while ago for myself. Yeah. But it seemed really, really expensive. So is there, what's this? Is there like how much do you pay? Sorry, it's a bit of a bold question, but it is quite a chunk, isn't it? So
yeah, I have to pay. It's £600 a year. It should be 1,000. Yeah, it's £1,000
I remember
a year,
when I looked at it. Yeah.
But as a woman, you get £400 discount.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
There's a thing for, yeah, if you're whatever thou class as like if it's a woman-led business, or if you're a person of color, or I can't remember what all the categories are. There's various categories.
So you can apply for a relief, yeah.
And you get a discount, but yeah, £600 a year. Okay. So I mean, something that I have got now, because and actually I got that B Corp status when I was in my old studio, and I didn't have any control over the energy use, and you get so many brownie points for that. So I just about got through, but the whole place was running on oil, and they wouldn't tell me who their suppliers were or anything. So when I have to do it again, I'm hoping hopefully I'll get lots more. But I just, but I mean, one advantage of that now is that I'm not paying rent. So I just split that £600 up into monthly payments, and I put it away in a savings account. And then when I've got to pay, it's there.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
Just as this is how we're looking at this, I was just wondering if you found other similar groups working on sustainable off-grid living, for to tap into, as you might have if you wanted to learn more about ethical jewelry, you've come here. But did you find anything similar for that area?
Yeah, there's loads. Oh, I'm in so many Facebook groups off-grid living, and like narrowboats and camper vans as well, because it's all the same kind of stuff. So I follow a few narrowboat people and looking at what they do, because you're trying to get power off grid. So yeah, I can't remember the names of all of them, but there are Facebook groups brilliant. There are loads. And I'm not very good at asking questions, but I just read other people's things, and although it is something I've been interested in for a long time as well. So it's nice to be able to sort of put that interest into practice.
Wonderful. Fantastic. Is there more questions coming in, Rebecca?
I would just really love to know, from the consumer side of things, do you think that all of these things that you're doing attract customers? Like that £600 that you're spending on the B Corp, actually, is that bringing in more than £600 worth of sales? And do they come to you specifically because, or is it like a nice extra?
I think it's a nice extra. I have had people come to me because I'm a B Corp. I've had well, I've had one at least that came to me especially saying, oh, I can't believe there's a B Corp jeweler in the Forest of Dean. So people are interested. But I haven't done the maths to work out whether that £600 is like you said. I know so many different things that you can be part of as well that all cost money. It's all, you know, £100 a year here and there, and you know, and there's the Sustainable Wedding Alliance, I think it's called, and that's another £200 odd or something that I haven't paid to join, because that's it. You can just keep joining all of these things, and before you know it, you're paying ridiculous amounts of money every year. And yeah, like you say, you don't necessarily get the benefit of paying that money. So I've been a B Corp for a year, and at the moment I think I will do it again. So we'll see. But yeah, I think maybe it is a nice extra. People are definitely interested, and they do ask me about it. Lots of people don't know what it is, and when I tell them, it's like, oh well, that's brilliant, you know. So I think maybe it's becoming more well known. But yeah, I haven't actually done the maths.
I'm so impressed. I just can't get over it. I'm just so impressed.
May I just butt in again? Because when I was looking at the B Corp things and talking to people about it, I was told by a couple of people that had applied and were going through the B Corp certification that they managed to get business from their cohorts and from, you know, within the organisation, and that they're quite good at networking within the B Corp groups that you can form. So that was appealing to me anyway, but it was just the size of the...
If you're good at networking, then I think, yeah, I think you could probably get more out of it than I do. I hate networking. I just hate it with a passion. You go to this room of people and
you're such a good speaker, though. You'll nail it left, right, and centre, I'm sure. Exactly. But you know, you're doing your thing so well, and it's not for the shouty about stuff. Then that's even better, isn't it? It's just for your own passion.
Yeah. I've had loads of spam, because obviously you've got a page on the B Corp website. And I've had so many emails that are coming through my website that are just not relevant at all, trying to sell me stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of networking amongst the B Corp community happens. But I've only been to a couple of networking things. So yeah, I know I could do better there, but I don't know if I will.
Great. Do we have any other questions for Anna? No? Oh, well, look, just thank you so much. And, you know, yeah, we'll talk again off screen, but it would be great to sort of hear if there's more, you know, that you could share with Fair Luxury, and then we could maybe put it on our website or something, because it's just amazing what you can see. And it looks like it's been really fun as well, all the investigating and the kind of research that you've done. I can just imagine that, you know, tramping through lots of muddy fields looking for older, you know, things to recycle, and you know, it sounds amazing.
You have to trample through a muddy field to get to me.
Yeah, brilliant.
We haven't done the path yet. It's all right in the summer.
Brilliant. Yeah, I get a little I was going to say a little tractor, but no, you couldn't do that, could you? A little bicycle tractor to get across?
I did think about a box full of wellies at the gate. Okay. So when people come to visit me, they just have to swap to a pair of wellies.
But fantastic. Yeah. Love it. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
Alrighty, and so moving on. So as I mentioned at the beginning, so we the pledge was put together for you know, a set of inspirational framework, and a kind of a process that you can work on together in a really stated way, that it's the SMART way of working, which I did have written down, but it's the achievable, realistic, time constraint, those kind of things. So it's a very practical way of looking at things and making the approach. But then as we're moving that out into the bigger world, for people to do with as they will, I'd like to talk now to Arabelle Labousan, a Fair Luxury member and ethical, you know, She's there, you name it, she's
Guru.
involved in it.
She's a
doing it.
guru.
She's stood
Yay,
out there.
I'm a guru. No, I'm not a guru. I'm just passionate and Spanish, you know. Let's translate it.
But Arabelle from the Busan studio has created the Ethical Jewellery Manifesto, which is quite a remarkable document, which you can all see. I think Alice has just popped that in the chat there. So, well, nobody talks more passionately about these things than Arabelle, so I'm just going to hand it straight over to her to explain more about what that is.
Thank you very much, Anna, and thank you everyone for being there. So I think there was a need at some point for me to just encapsulate a little bit what this ethical jewelry movement is also because I've been sometimes talking to journalists, specifically one time that he was like, well, so what do you stand for? You know, if this is a movement, you know, what do you stand for? And I felt a bit like, oh, I've actually never really written this down, you know, like to go, well, this is what I would like the world to be. So I think also sometimes with the pledges as well, we've been in ethics in jewelry, we've been looking at, you know, everything started like what Anna was saying with fashion revolution and also who made your jewelry. And then the makers could show, yeah, I made your jewelry in comparison to the big brands. And then what came after was the Provenance Pledge. You know, it was more about, okay, we know who made it, but what are the materials coming from? So we all started committing to find out a little bit more with where our materials were coming from as provenance. But it comes a moment when also provenance can become many places, and there's many ways of being sustainable, many ways of being ethical. And I found myself in this place where a lot of people ask me, what is better? Is this or that better? Is it recycle? Like what Anna was saying, is it recycle or is it fair trade better? Is it this material from this country or this other one? And I find it very difficult to answer this without asking people, what's your framework? You know, what is almost your economical framework? What do you stand for in life? Like, because, you know, for someone that, you know, metal from beds is okay, for others it might not be okay because it's still a large corporation. So we all have to look a little bit more inside with what do we stand for? What do we believe? You know, for Anna, it was obviously really, really important to create this shed that is, you know, off grid, and then it uses energy that's completely sustainable, etc., etc. So, you know, that should also help her to define also other choices that she makes for the materials that she uses in the jewelry, etc., etc. So yeah, I was working throughout last year to create this ethical jewelry manifesto. I brought Anna Luca, which is kind of my other passionate guru on ethical jewelry, and we created this page. So it's a website that you can read the manifesto. It's pretty simple. It's 6 points. I will read you a little bit through it. Instead of me just talking about it, I'll read you what it is. And the goal for this is just to be used as a compass for you to follow, if you agree with it. You know, and manifesto in the arts is just a statement that you produce and that you stand next to. You know, you that will be the compass to guide you in your creative practice. So this ethical jewelry manifesto should also be like that. And should also help you with your pledges, because hopefully this gives you a framework, and then you go like, right, this year I'm going to concentrate in this part of my practice, or this part of my building, or this part of my resources, or this part of my materials, and then you work with the pledge framework towards developing those points. But it should, yeah, work a little bit as an inspiration. Well, what are the things that I care about? So I'm going to go and read a bit. It's 6 points, as I said. I'm going to do around 3, and then it's up to you to go to the website. And if you agree with it, please sign it. And then we still haven't put out the names of people that sign it, because I thought, yeah, let's just gather a little bit more momentum, and then we'll put the first 10 on it. We haven't reached 10 yet, so I'm hoping I gather a few more. But yeah, obviously, if you align with it, if you don't align with it, this is not for you. But you can create your own thing to work with it. You know, this is just not one thing fits all. Okay. We're ethical. We are the ethical jewelry movement. We are artists, designers, manufacturers, traders, retailers, journalists, workers, citizens of the world. We love jewelry, but we don't love jewelry that facilitates abuse of planet Earth and those who inhabit it. This manifesto is an invitation for you to join us in our mission to change the world, 1 gram of gold at a time. Point number 1. Jewelry honors ancient natural materials and their intrinsic beauty, linking us to Mother Earth. Precious metals and gemstones are formed over deep time through complex geological and cosmic processes. They are survivors of the immense timescales of the universe evolution and reminders of the comparative limitation of human experience. But throughout history, jewelry has centered on systems of greed and abuse. The exploitation of human beings, motherlands, natural habitats, and finite material resources. Precious metals and gemstones are the fruits of our planet's womb. We would once again like to see natural resources hailed as the treasures they are, not viewed as pound signs through the lens of capitalist gluttony. Point number 2. Jewelry is centered on reparations. Those who appreciate jewelry must also acknowledge its roots in colonialism, slavery, and violations of natural landscapes. As museums are forced to return stockpiles of stolen artifacts to their rightful owners, now is a prime opportunity to question the Western world's monopolization of beautiful things and our deep-rooted associations of the third world with inferior human life. Charitable donations alone are not enough if people continue to be viewed as wealth-generating tools, entrapped by a lack of alternative employment options. Truly beautiful jewelry is that which actively strives for restorative justice, however complex that process might be. Point number 3. Jewelry revels in the possibilities of circularity. Jewelry deals in some of the strongest materials known to man. Why are people hoarding unseen diamonds in underground deposits or discarding precious metals in wastelands when they could be reintroduced to the pool of possibilities, creating new legacies for eternity? Normalizing the processes of reusing and recycle will enable us to pare back the large-scale extractive activities placing so much pressure on our planet. And I continue to number 4. Jewelry redistributes wealth. Whilst the largest proportion of the jewelry industry's revenue is slipped into a few bulging pockets, those at the roots of the supply chains feel the least benefit. We want jewelry to foster structures that close vast wealth gaps by ensuring that fruits of labor are enjoyed only by the hands that touch the materials, not the faceless machines with no relationship to them. And then number 5 is jewelry lends people a voice. And number 6, jewelry tells stories honestly. So I'm very happy for you to go to the website and have a read. The tone of this manifesto is a little bit more poetic and it's a little bit more global. So we really wanted to step out of the normal vocabulary about traceability, sustainability, and just keep it a little bit more open, and what the world that we would like to live by is not giving the answers to the complex problems that we have, whether it's recycle or not recycle, the legislations, or why different countries have different political kind of viewpoints on extraction, for example. But it just hopefully feels as a bit of a food for the soul, so that it kind of guides you in that path. And that's all for me.
I love that. I love that it's so much more poetic, because it's not a to-do list as such. When you explained it as being like an art movement manifesto, you know, then that really shows the power that these things can have, you know, that there's all of these, like, the arts and craft movement and the Bauhaus, and, you know, people stated these, this is what we stand for, and then from that you live your life accordingly, whatever that means to you. But it's saying, okay, so this is the big picture. This is my ideal, huge, big world thinking. So what can I do with that within my own life? Really, it's not just about jewelry as it is. You know, it's, as Anna was saying, it's not just like, oh, well, this is what I do for my business, and then everything else I, you know, go and eat veal or something. I don't know, but you know, it's about really implementing these into your daily your work practice, but from a big free thinking way of looking at things, which I love, because it is a unique vision. You know, there isn't anything out there like it that really states that. So I think it's a really exciting and passionate document to put out there. So I'm sure you will all be over and checking it out. But as Arabelle says, if it's not something that you align with, then obviously there's no pressure. But I'd love to hear questions about it. If we've got a few hands going up. Caroline?
Yeah, I'd just like around point 3. Could you expand on that, please, a little bit? Not sure I understand it completely.
So it's circularity. So basically, jewelry deals in some of the strongest materials known to man. Why are people hoarding and seeing diamonds? The same as we're hoarding gold.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So it's about why cannot we just those resources that are valued in our systems, in our economic systems, whether it's diamonds, but mainly gold, because it's traded as a commodity. So why are we keeping that as value when it doesn't belong to us? It belongs to Mother Earth, and we should just, you know, use it instead of having to go and mine more. So we are in a moment right now where there's so much above ground, whether it is gold, whether it's any other materials. Why do we need to mine anymore? Why don't we just can leave Mother Earth for a while and then just learn between ourselves of how to really separate materials, reuse them, etc., etc. What happens is that it's not cost effective. So it just really talks about circularity, but again, circularity does, but for me, I've always been an advocate of recycle, whether it's, I know the complexities of recycle, hugely complex, but you cannot deny that recycling as a process, what we need to be living with is the core of everything. We've mined so many metals already, so why do we need to mine anymore? We probably wouldn't even need to.
So why does it need to be a commodity on the stock market where it's...
Exactly. Well, that comes core to our Western civilizations. And this is why this is written in a bit more poetical way, so that we understand that we specifically were Western. So other cultures have other relationship with materials and value. And we need to be still critical of it, because who says it's right, you know?
Yeah. Okay.
So hopefully this allows for that, like questioning the whole structures of what we think is right or wrong, or what is, you know, politically or legally okay or not, you know.
Okay, thank you.
Cheers.
I love what you just pop in again. I love what you're saying about the finding alternative employment options for mining communities, you know, because that's often brought in as the part of the debate of recycle versus fair trade and traceable, you know, but it very much feels like, you know, we that's our narrative of like, no, we need to employ them so they can, you know, they can carry it. So, but it's also maybe we are trapping them in that situation by not thinking, what else can we all do? What else can you do? You know, I'm sure you don't want to be digging holes in the ground forever, but it's like that's what we've in the West have pigeonholed you into doing, or
yeah,
you know, we want your resources, so we'll keep you there getting them out for us as long as possible, you know. So I think that was a really important thing to sort of note, that it doesn't have to be that way, and doesn't have to be a case of mining or starving, you know, that we should all be working together. We all need each other. So what we should be helping each other as friends, not just, you know, people digging stuff up for us.
Yeah, and starving also often comes from land ownership. If we wouldn't have land ownership, you know, that is not that old in the scope of, like, you know, human existence. Land ownership is really recent. So if we wouldn't have these restrictions of access to land, we wouldn't have problems with food, well, or much less, because obviously depending where you are in the world. So it's about, I know I am kind of far thinking in a bit more abstract and a little bit questioning everything, but why not bring in all those that more academic thinking also within jewelry? Like, why do we need to speak the same language? Why do we need to keep on using the same words that the system use. Like, why cannot we dream a better world for ourselves? You know, like decolonizing or gold. Like, how can you decolonize gold? The history of gold. Like, we're working with jewels. Jewels is only for who is jewelry? Jewelry is only for a few. You know, who gets to wear jewelry and who doesn't get to wear jewelry? So I think those are conversations that opens the whole scope of like, oh wow, I'm actually in this industry that is not only about like a pretty piece of jewelry. I can actually expand my thinking. And I wanted to bring this document for us to just open it up a little bit more. And also because just to kind of leave a legacy as well of an ethical jewelry movement. Like many of us in this room have been working on it for a while, you, Anna, and you know, we had never really sat down and kind of agreed on something. Like, I stand for this because, you know, we all come from different places, and you know, suddenly to be able to create this together for me has been such a privilege as well. And who knows, you know, who takes it, and hopefully it gets used as a tool. I want it to be a tool that we release into the world. The same as now the pledge, we're kind of leaving it on the website for people then to go and use it. I think I feel my responsibility within Fair Luxury as well is to create tools that then people can go and use and take forward without having so much like time limitations. Because when you think, oh, is it recycle, is it fair trade, is it fair mine, you know, when we started, fair trade and fair mine were together, you know, and now they're not. They're two different certification systems. So in 10 years time, there will be many other certification systems or many other ways of people approach sustainability, because we will know more, so we will get there. So hopefully this gives a big enough framework to not have to go like, but if I use beds, is it better that if I use recycle, if I use fair trade? So those are small questions when you can, those questions that happen now, but maybe in 10 years, those questions are not relevant anymore, you know? So, you know, Greg Valery is using Peace Gold. Is that better than the other ones? It just brings new systems, new ways of helping alleviating poverty, which is also remarkable. So gold can become a tool for something better, you know, instead of like just keeping it on the banks and using it as a coin almost.
Yeah, it's fascinating, the possibilities of it when you think about it in the grand scheme, but also in the power of, you know, a small group of really passionate individuals, you know. So yes, I don't mean to keep talking. Is anybody, any other questions there? Anybody, hands going up? I can't see everybody on the screen, unfortunately, because of my technical problems. But
I see
yes,
Claire. Yes,
Hi, I'm a fair trade manufacturer of leather, I'm sorry to say, packaging. The reason I'm opening my mouth is two things. My big bugbear is a thing called waste, and we never discuss waste when we discuss sustainability. If we stopped wasting, we probably wouldn't need to be discussing sustainability quite so much, I would suggest, in all departments of our lives. The other thing is that gold was always used as a coin, as a saving, if you like, a way of saving money, and as a benchmark for money. And most people do decorate themselves. Maybe precious jewelry, which I'm in that market like you, is an unnecessary thing. But we all decorate ourselves. We all buy things, whether it be clothing or bangles, whatever, to try and look pretty. So I think it depends. Everyone can have a wooden bangle or a piece of something that they think is attractive. And obviously the wealthy people who have very expensive jewelry, that's a different matter. But my real point is waste, which is something that is not discussed nearly as much as it should be. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for sharing. I think, yes, I mean, waste, and that's why, you know, circularity is as well, like what is waste for someone can be the food for someone else, you know, and we haven't really build our systems on that kind of circularity, you know, like it could totally be like certain factories next to others, so that the waste of one is the material for the next one, and so on, and within a wood. So everything, you know, how can we also learn from nature doesn't waste anything. So how can we live from that sustainability?
I mean,
feel like we could be
people discuss all the time about the fact that I make leather, I should be doing vegan this and whatever. But I keep saying that leather, in my case, is the byproduct of the meat industry, of the people in Bangladesh who actually eat meat, God forbid. I'm afraid I'm a meat eater too, but they don't waste anything there. They use everything. So the leather skins that come from the animals that they're going to eat are used to make other things. And the good thing about leather is eventually it can disintegrate when you put it in the right conditions. You can let it disintegrate. Whereas vegan leather, which mostly is plastic, certainly never disintegrates. That's the biggest bugbear, and it's, I'm afraid, a problem for me, because people keep asking me, do I use vegan leather? The answer is no, because what I use is a byproduct that's not wasted. So, you know, I understand vegans get offended at having leather in their lives, which I can understand and I respect, but that doesn't mean everybody else has to follow suit.
Yeah, I think the world is complex, and
Very.
yeah, and I think that with all the populisms coming right, left, and center, people don't want to go deep into understanding really why something might be better than something else. They just want the shallowness of like, oh yeah, plastic. In this case, you know, we don't need to, you know, use the animals, but what those animals and where specifically that place and the complexity of those localities. So in terms of like how the local relates to the global, I think is also very relevant, but not everyone has patience to understand those complex situations or why you've chosen to do one thing instead of the other. But I think maybe Rebecca could help us here, because that also has to do with perception and also marketing and what kind of works for a majority. And also we're in the UK, that's quite isolated, is not very grounded. A lot of people are not very connected to the land or to food, and things like that. So I guess also depends what your market is and what you're selling. And in certain places, your story will be better understood than others. So I guess it's about targeting also your stories where you are. That might be healthy. Rebecca, give us a hand here.
Yeah, I think it's more about knowing your customer and like you've been saying, knowing what your compass is. And there's nothing wrong with having leather bags, or even Anna, you're not going for the sheep insulation, but like I maybe ignorantly would have said no sheep are harmed in the harvesting of wool. So there's kind of a little bit of gray area, I think, in everything. And as long as the transparency is there and the effort is there and the kind of the recognition that you are communicating correctly and honestly, and not saying, well, I'm sustainable, I'm completely sustainable because I'm using recycled packaging and metal. We kind of know that that's not good enough anymore, but I think that a lot of the communications is struggling to keep up with that. So interrogating yourself and your customer, I think, is important there.
Packaging that's thrown away is far less sustainable than packaging that's kept.
Exactly.
So,
and I think your point about waste and why we don't talk so much about waste is that we know inherently gold is not a waste product, and that goes into the discussion about recycled materials, that is technically waste. So there's a lot of difficult terminology there, and getting our heads around there has never been waste in the jewelry industry, really. People don't throw away a lot of gold. Or at least
they can't afford to at all now.
Well, but now we are throwing it away because we're throwing it away in electronics. So now we are the first generation that we're throwing away primary precious metals, and this is a problem. That's the only case where we can call gold like recycle, because yes, it was a waste. But yeah, again, the complexity is that it's more expensive to refine, to recover that gold than to just kind of mine new one, and that is what is wrong.
That's really getting bad, isn't it?
And that has to do also with new clothes and all that stuff, but it has to do with, again, the framework of the world. Like, you can't be that you go to a shop and a pair of trousers costs £5 on sales. It's not okay, because it's not okay, you know, like, because people will just, it's cheaper to buy a new toaster than get the toaster fixed, you know, those kind of things, because labor is more expensive than just a new toaster that has been produced somewhere else. Again, those are the things that obviously I'm not speaking directly in here, but it's about that world. Like, it's just not okay, even though it's legal, and instead of that is what we're living through. But no, because that produces more waste. And again, you know, put attention more into waste is also core.
Yeah.
Could I just circle back to something that Claire said earlier, actually, about wearing jewelry, you know, as just we just put jewelry on. But I think it's really important to know as well that humans have always adorned. It's not maybe these days it's seen more of like a decoration and things but perhaps viewing it as a sense of adornment, whatever it may be made of, like Claire, you were saying about wooden bangles and, you know, all of these kind of things. It can give us a much more of a deeper connection with the earth if we do really appreciate, you know, animals adorn themselves, right? This is, you know, peacocks, all of these things, you know, it's like we all have this animal urge somehow to show where we are, to show some status, to show what we believe in or where we're from or all of these things. And so perhaps even sort of down to considering our own spiritual or ancestral connection with jewelry might take you somewhere towards appreciating the metals more. And so it's not just like commoditization, it's like, you know, this is actually, for me, this is a treasure. And, you know, maybe if we did start thinking of jewelry more than something that we merely throw on, it is what is it expressing about ourselves, you know, and therefore can be more considerate in that respect and communicate that to our customers. Sorry, Anna, I see you've got your hand up and nodding away there. Did you want to add something else?
I just worked out how to do the little raised hand thing. Right, yeah, sorry, I meant to do that when Claire was talking. So yeah, Claire, you're right, waste, it is totally the problem. And I'm not going to get into all the ins and outs of the meat and dairy industry because I could sit here and talk to you for hours and hours and hours about that. But yeah, I mean, I would be perfectly happy. I've actually just done a bit of a call out in the last month for people to send me their old jewelry boxes for me to try and reuse them in some way. I'm working on how I can make them look high-end enough using recycled boxes, but that's another project that's ongoing. But if somebody sent me one of your leather boxes, then I'd be perfect, you know, I would never throw that away. I'd be perfectly happy to use that because it's had its life. And the same thing, if I go to a charity shop, I'm quite happy to buy a pair of leather boots, you know, because it's not fueling the industry that we've got now. That's it.
Yeah, so that's a form of circularity again, isn't it? You know,
yeah.
I mean, in an ideal world, maybe we could completely do without money. We all just swap what each other needs for, you know, for something else. I have this, you want this, brilliant. You know, I mean, that would be amazing. So yeah, let's put that out there as well.
Back to barter business.
Absolutely. Okay, and as I say, I apologize, I can't see everybody. Is there hands going up or more questions coming in? No? Well, it's been an amazing session. Thank you so much for our speakers and everyone for attending. Absolutely loved it. And yeah, and just to reiterate again, you can go to Arabelle. I'm sure it's been in the chat by now, the manifesto. So go there, check it out. I'm sure you'll accept feedback as well, Arabelle.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I was going to say as well, so what is there as well is materials that you can sign it, but then also you can take some an image and then post it on social media, the same as you can do with a pledge. So, and also in the Fair Luxury website, there is the things that you can put also on Instagram. Like there is obviously all these things that you can engage with and then use. And obviously, if anyone wants to give me feedback, please, you know, far away. Don't ask me to rewrite the whole thing, please. But if you want something specific to be added, you know, I very much consider that, just because Anna and me just keep on like every week and go like, right, can we add a bit here, can we add a bit there, and that is a bit more, it gets a bit more complicated, but you know, obviously you know, send your thoughts, but yeah, it's something to be used. Okay, so you know, it's about promoting it, and I just want also that just goes into the world, you know, the same as the Fair Luxury Pledge. It's something that people take ownership of it, and then hopefully, you know, make the world a better place with it.
That's what we're all here for. Yeah, so do everybody go and check out the pledge page on the Fair Luxury website and all the resources that are available there for you to download and also still be a part of, you know, and also, yeah, of course, the manifesto, and just always feedback. We always love to hear any thoughts and any next steps as well. So if you are in the middle of your pledge, please just don't think we don't want to know. Please do not think that. We keep it coming, keep it coming. I mean, look how much, you know, how amazing it's been to hear from Anna and everything that she's achieved. You know, I'm working on my pledge. You know, I'm not going to stop, you know. So, you know, that doesn't mean that any of us will. We just do it a little bit more self-guided. But we are still a huge community and we keep on growing, and yeah, keep on joining us and sharing any information, you know, anything you feel you might find useful as to the group as a whole. Okay, anybody else? Yeah, should we wind it down? Fantastic. Thanks again, everybody. It's been brilliant to have you here. Okay, cheerio. Bye-bye.